Welcome. We're often asked to provide data definitions, information about our semantic model in the semantic model itself. What is this field? What is this table? What's the calculation behind it? What's the format? Previously, there was no way to do this automatically, but now there is. And in this video, I'm going to show you every step you need for how to unlock all of this. So let's take a look at what this is. First, what we're going to see is that in your semantic model, you have locations. You have places you can put descriptions of fields, descriptions of tables. There's also inherent things like expression logic and field names and formatting strings and a plethora of other things. Well, what happened recently is Power BI allowed us to connect to columns, measures, tables, and relationships. What this video is going to show you how to do and give you a ton of code for is to create a fully automatic data dictionary in one location. You can copy and paste this code into your model. It will suck out everything that's in there and allow people just to see what's the expression, what's the description, many other things. But what's cool about this as well is I'm going to show you how to create something that feels like a semantic model, where you have plus, expand, and collapse buttons. It will automatically show you the right values for every element in the data dictionary. There's nothing else like this. So let's dive into it. This will be a complete walkthrough with labs and as well as a file, so you can take it and make it your own as you see fit. If you find this valuable, like, subscribe, ask a question. I'll be happy to help you. Stay tuned for more Power BI content. If you subscribe, it will keep coming to you. But let's dive into this data dictionary stuff now. Let's go into Power BI Desktop. Let's go. All right, so here we are in Power BI Desktop. And now let's take a look at what we're going to be building. So first, here's an example of the data dictionary. I'm going to walk through a lot of different elements in this video. You will have a full understanding again of how to utilize all these dictionary elements yourself, as well as how to customize them as you see fit. So what we're first looking at here is if we just take into account what is this? Well, on the right-hand side, we see a semantic model. I'm going to give you all the code needed, and I'll talk you through what it's doing as well to create essentially this big old section here. We'll talk through it in a minute. That will take all the information from your semantic model. So some key fields that we're going to pull, and again, you can pull more as you see fit, will be things if you go into anything, you'll say, okay, calculations table. This table stores the primary calculations utilized in the model. There's 60 fields. 3 of them are hidden. There's table attributes. There's semantic model information, model relationships. But then we can click any of these things and say we want to say, okay, well, what's going on in here? We can see here the calculations, flat planes net sales. It shows the description. It shows the logic. It shows the format. So from a data governance perspective, we're often asked, what are these things? Well, now we can just allow them to view it automatically. It even shows how tables are created. There's a date table. Here's all the logic. There's a dictionary. Here's all the logic for the dictionary that we'll talk through as well. But then if you keep going, you'll see here are things that are hidden. Here are things that are not. It's regular, data type. It's an import. It's a timetable. It's text. Is it an import model? Literally everything. You can even expand model relationships, and I can see the customer table is linked to the sales table that's hidden, and it is a one-to-one mapping through the ID columns listed here. Again, this is everything, but what's cool then is when you have a semantic model, what this code is going to allow you to do is you just copy it and paste it in your own semantic model. It will automatically read everything, which is awesome. And what we're going to do in this video is go through that process. But then also what you can do is you can take it up a notch by adding things like field parameters. So I'm going to talk you through how this is working out to do this. Where specifically, say we collapse everything here and we don't want to see this expression. So let's just unclick it. Boom, look at that. Now we can remove it. We can see that here's the calculations, here's the description, here's the data type, here's the format. Maybe I want to expand calculations for some reason, and I do want to see the expression. Let's bring that back in. Now I can bring in the regional sales. I can see here's how we're calculating everything. It's fully automatic. So let's dive into it. This is legit. Now first, let's talk about some key spots that it's utilizing. In your model, on the right-hand side, we're going to go into the model view on the left. So there's the model view tab. I'm going to click this. Over here, some of the key things that we're going to pull out are the description field, where you can see if I click calculations, it says this table stores the primary calculations utilized in this model. You can pick more and more things as you see fit. Is it hidden? No. Maybe other ones are. Same with, customer. We can go through attributes. We can see there's folders, but then pretty much for anything, there's a description, but then there's inherent things behind it as well. Like this dictionary table, which we're going to talk about. Well, in order to make this, there's a big old expression. This is going to be pulled automatically into the data dictionary, as well as for any specific columns. If we look into, a calculation or a column, it's going to give everything that we want to see for this. If we expand dictionary, for example, as that's something we're building here, well, then we'll get into other attributes where there are going to be these, like a calculated column. It's a sort key. How do you build that? It's going to give everything. So we're going to get into it right now. All right, those are the different measures. Now let's talk about what we're doing here and how this is working out. So to do that, I'm going to first come back to the model view tab and explain to you these views that are created. Actually, I'll go to the table view. So Power BI just released these views, which pull info views, which pull all the metadata from a model. But the thing about these views is they're all different. Some columns are the same, but some are different. They have different information. So you can always pull these in, but it's not a good user experience just to pull them in and have people pick stuff. You need to have a universal feel where it actually allows people to interact with it. You can just paste it in. That's what this dictionary is going to do. So I'm going to get to that in a second. But what these views essentially will do for you, if you click INFO.View Columns, it's very simplistically, if you make a new table and you just set the logic to be info.view.columns, you'll see there's different items here, but info.view.columns, measures, relationships, tables, and you hit enter. I called these Z because they're hidden. They're going to be hidden from the model, but it's just to show you the data, and it's going to pull back everything for the columns, the table, the data type, the folder, attributes, and some that we care about, some that we don't, and maybe this will evolve. This is where I'm going to be intentionally picking certain things like the description or the data categories for these various columns to report on them. Same with then measures. You can see that for every measure, it's going to have it, the logic, but again, they're separate. We need to get these together and then also create a complex kind of solution where you can interact with it from user perspective on a very easy level. There's going to be relationships. It's going to show every table is connecting and relating in your model, the direction it's going, from columns and to columns, many to one, everything like that. And then table information. Is it import? Is it hidden? Descriptions, the whole deal. And then this is just another hidden table. So these are the views. And now we're going to get into the logic. And again, download this file. I should say that in the beginning, but you can download this file. The link is in the description, and you can just have all this code, no problem. And the code that's going to be helpful is this. This is the dictionary. So let's talk through what this is doing. And ultimately what this is going to create for you, if I collapse this back up, is a new table called the dictionary table that's going to have a couple of key things. It's going to have some universal, it's going to have essentially every attribute that's available across all those tables in one place. But then it's also going to kind of stuff certain values into folders, as well as create some folders or create values, which I'll talk through to make a universal dictionary. So within this, we can see it's kind of one big table now with everything, but there's info groups for columns, measures. There's a sort key, which is going to be very important for how to bring things back up. And I'll show this to you, but again, you can copy paste it. You can copy these tables and be good to go if you feel like it. So let's dive into now this logic. It's actually fairly straightforward, but it just takes some effort for all the different comments you'll see where I've gone through and flipped things to make a universal data set. So what we're going to do first is essentially select columns from the view. And if you don't know what select columns is, it's a function where you say, it's kind of like a SQL select statement, where you're going to select from this table, then you put the name, what you want the column to be, and then the value. So some things will bring actual data, some things will bring just text, and I'll talk through these. But at a high level, it's going to first bring back four variable tables where you have columns, we'll have measures, we'll have tables, and we'll have relationships. And so what you'll notice is that these are the same 4 views we had, but I've gone through the process of creating a master column data set. So some are blank, but this will allow the data set to be unioned up very easily as well. So now when we continue through this process, it's going to allow us to populate the potential blanks for now or for future items too. But then after we do this process, we're going to union these values together and apply some filter to get things out. But the magic kind of happens with a lot of these hyphenated sections. So what that looks like is, for example, and this is where you can go through it on your own, but there's going to be items where in one view, like the columns view, it might call it format string. And then in the measure view, it might call it format string description, or these certain things. So what you'll see is here's an example. For every kind of modification, there'll be a commented out section of code. So if we start here, we're going to say we're taking the info view table. I'm creating something called an info group, which will be static. So in the first one, it's columns. In the next one, it's measures. It just kind of says what the data is, really straightforward, tables. Info group order. Now this is important because if you notice in this table and the way we want this to interact, if we come back to here, if we collapse, all, and then let's say expand entire level. So by default, it's taking the calculations and it's saying this table stores the primary calculations utilized in this model. And we're going to get to it as well, but there's going to be, because this is interacting now, not like a big flat table, but actually like a semantic model would interact. And if we look at measures, we're going to talk about what the logic is here, but there's certain codes and a repeatable pattern you need to utilize to pull in attributes in this dynamic fashion, but it's going to reference the sort key as well as a couple of other things. But the sort key is going to be generated from the value that we just were talking about there with the sort order. So that's kind of a peek into the future of where we'll be going. But again, these info group orders are important because it's going to say columns. Okay, that's 1. Measures, that's a 1 as well. Tables, this is 0, which means first, when you're looking at the dynamic hierarchy, we're going to get the table information first, and then 1, 1 for the columns and measures. And then the relationships can be at the bottom. So that's going to be the point of this info group. And then when we go through each of these columns, you're going to see various comments. So the format string, I kind of updated this. This one's not needed. Same with the relationship. If we keep going, you'll actually find that there's a published error where if you're creating a calculated table off of the INFO.View measures, this data type column, if you return this value, it crashes everything. It doesn't work. And so the way to get around that is for now to put a blank. The value is blank in the model itself anyways. So what that means is that they probably will fix it since it's a newer item, but it's good to have that. What also is important is in this one, I guess I can make this comment here, is for the display folders. Well, there's no display folder necessarily for items that are directly within a table. So I'm going to create a no folder to say, hey, this is not in a folder, but we want to have that level 2. So things are grouped up because it's always going to be those table, folder, value. If we keep going, you'll see there's more logic, info group, group order, and you can kind of work through this stuff. But again, I'm going to show you, we're going to do a lab where I'll literally we'll copy this and paste it and make a new dictionary. So you will follow along the steps almost for how you will create this in your own model and what you can do then from that point. But again, there's lots of different comments, things that are hidden, things that are not. You can modify this as you want. Again, it's about 280 lines, but it's a lot of just stacked up columns, but it's more about the organization of it all. Then it's going to union all this information together. And then there's some arbitrary things that don't really matter, like the row number. So this logic is what you're going to want to really utilize. And then we're going to create, and we're going to go through this in the lab as well, so you can see how to pull these out and create them as you see fit. These description kind of categories, these matrix measures. And what this is going to do, we'll talk through it in more detail. They kind of traverse the data we talked about, pulling back the correct item for every level. So calculations, getting the right description, products, something's hidden. If I want to click it, number of products, distinct kind of product ID, it's pulling up all the right stuff. It's pretty darn cool. And especially when you need to have a point of truth for your data governance and data measures for definitions and everything like that. If you decide to put that in Power BI itself, this will pull it. It will allow your users to see it for every semantic model. And then finally, after you create kind of these dynamic measures, well, we could create, if you want, a field parameter. Because what I noticed is sometimes I don't want to see this big expression, but sometimes I do. So we can just remove it and add it if we feel like it. And this is more of a functionality within Power BI itself. If you were saying connecting to the semantic model on your own, you could bring it in any way you want to see fit, use the column or don't use it. Again, you'll see what's hidden, what's not hidden. So there's a lot of good stuff there. But now let's go ahead and start to dive into this here. So with the lab tab, here are the processes you want to follow if you're going to make a data dictionary for your own semantic model utilizing this process. Cool. So we're going to have a brand new fresh thing. We're going to say this is our model. Again, in your model itself, make sure some key things are really populated. If you want to provide the definitions again, go to the description, pull that out. Everything else will be automatic. It's going to pull the expressions you use. It's going to pull if it's hidden or not. It's going to give everything from there, and then you can pick and choose what you want. So the first step is we're going to take this code. We're going to copy it, select everything, copy it. We're going to make a new table. I'm going to go to new table, and I'm just going to paste this in there. The whole entire code, all the lines of it, and I'll rename it. For this case, just so we have another section that we're referencing, I'll hit enter. And there you go. That's how you can create the whole new dictionary in your own semantic model, the base data set. Just copy that code. Again, you can get in the details if you want to see what's going on there. So when you have that, then we'll have dictionary 2. Again, this will be your own semantic model. If you want, you can go to the table view, collapse this up. You can look at the dictionary 2 and you can see what's going on, all the raw data. But now what you'll see, some key columns are going to be from the dictionary. The first thing we have to create is a hierarchy, this dictionary hierarchy. So what that's going to entail is there's 3 key levels in this solution. And what those levels are going to be, let me do this just to allow us to see more stuff here. If I collapse this, there's going to be, well, there's a column called table just because my picture's in the way. Let me move it to the other side, bottom left, just for now. If you come back to the table now, so you'll see that some of the key items, there's going to be a table. And now this lists every table in the whole model. Then there's going to be a display folder. And this will list display folder. You know, it will populate it if it's table attributes, semantic model, varying things like that, giving all the folders. And then there's name. And this is going to be the actual name of the field or the column. So this is your whole entire model right here. But what we want to have is the ability for end users to kind of have that feel of just creating things and automatically aggregates and works. Like this semantic model here on the right-hand side, this is the exact same hierarchy. So what we're going to do is first make a hierarchy for this. We're going to go table, create hierarchy. And on this hierarchy, I'm going to then go to display folder, add to hierarchy, the table hierarchy, and then finally name. Add this to the hierarchy, table hierarchy. And now I'll call this dictionary hierarchy. Cool. So what this has just done is if I remove these fields, and how it's helpful is if I now add in the dictionary hierarchy that we just created and say I turn this into a matrix, well, look at that. Now it's going to start functioning like our semantic model, our calculations, customer product. We can drill through this thing. So that's good. But now how do we get the right element for the right level? Because what you're going to find is this problem. If you want to now say the description, well, if I pick description just by itself, it's going to, and I'll put this description maybe on rows as well. Well, if you expand it, it's going to give a description for everything at the very granular level, which won't necessarily work. It doesn't give that functionality that we need. So we have to create some dynamic measures to actually return the value. So what that looks like is this. The first one's more complicated, then it's easier from there. What I mean is first go to your model and let's just organize some of these attributes. So if we go into dictionary 2, let's just put all these other things into a folder called attributes by clicking them, select everything, display folder, attributes. So now it's kind of cleaned up a bit where we have attributes, dictionary hierarchy, and that's what we have. But now we need to create these things called, the various measures to aggregate up information in our model. So we'll start with the first kind of easy thing for fields. So if I copy this, I'll talk through it as well. But what you can do now is in dictionary 2 or in whatever you're creating in your model, following along, I'll paste this in here. I'll call this number of fields. What this is doing is it's counting the dictionary ID for the info group for columns and measures, because those are the true fields. The other items like the semantic models, table relationships, and table information, those aren't fields. So I'm going to count fields. It's already in use, so I have to do it again. That makes sense. So call it something unique in your model. You can still call it fields. I'll call it fields 2. But now if I add this, you'll see it's still not working. And why? Well, because I actually need to change the logic of this, calculate from, and we'll be doing this across all of them. You won't need to change the logic in yours because this will be unique to you. But then I'll come into this and pick the ID. And in this case, it's going to be 7 space 2 info group, column measures, hit return, and now it's working. And what I'm going to do just to keep this a little bit easier for myself is I'll remove this 2 and just call it like that. Okay, so now we can see there's 60 fields, but this is kind of how it works. And it's easy to do that with measures. But what we're going to do next is talk through how do we create this for attributes. So when I say attributes, I mean dimensions or text. And again, if we look, let me move my picture back to the right-hand side. I'm going to do this just to make sure we can always see things. I'm going to include, we'll say include this. And this is just more of a thing for allowing the camera to go. I'll put that there. Now, bottom right. Okay, so again, if we look back at the dictionary and the way this is functioning, well, you could even, now that you've created this table, if you wanted to, you could literally just copy this from this file, copy and paste it into your own Power BI file, and that would be an easy way to create this. But I'm going to show you how to do it so you can learn as well. But let's go back to this. And again, now let's also add the is hidden. So what that means is there's going to be some fields that are hidden, and I want to know what those are. And then we'll get to the dimensions and the attributes, which is the key thing, the complex item for this. These fields are pretty straightforward. What I mean by that is now if we go to measures, I'll go number hidden. If I copy this and I'll create a new measure here, what we'll be able to see is number hidden 2 is going to calculate number of fields. I'm going to put this as 2 from 07, where this is hidden is true. Pretty straightforward stuff. Calculate column. I add this. Oops, delete this. Add it to our matrix. Great. Okay. Now here's some of the magic sauce. So first, I'm going to do the most complicated one first. And then, well, actually, I'll do an easier one first. I'll do, say, the expression column. So what we can see, what we want to have happen is this logic, this concept here, where it's going to return an expression if for everything that's created. So even if I expand this entire model, this will look pretty wild. But now we can see every single thing for the dictionary, for every function, every matrix, everything in this model, all the expressions that are happening there. But the key thing is if we collapse all of this, again, now it's going to just return it for the first tables. You can see that the tables that we just discussed as well down here at the bottom, that they're populated from these info views, the Z tables, it shows all of it. But how do we make that work? because then when you expand one, it's going to show the expressions, if applicable, for other things below it. Well, here's how we do that. So we're going to come back to the lab tab, and we're going to go into our, let's look at the one that I already typed up, where I go into measures and I pick expression. And we're going to talk through how this works too. And then you'll be able to repeat it for, maybe you want to bring in different things for your model, or the data dictionary evolves over time. This will allow you to do that. So I'm going to come here, I'm going to make a new measure. And I'll talk through these things as well. So expression matrix 2. Okay. So first there's this is in scope. And this is important to understand how hierarchies work. So I'm going to update all these to be 07, as these are this is the new table. And then I'll just return it. So for this case, I'll just return the depth so you can understand how this is working. And so I have a parameter called depth. Don't worry about these two for right now. But what this is doing, it's going to return the depth. So if I add this, oops, I need to put it on the hierarchy itself. What you can see here is that it's going to say, okay, the total is a 0. And then this first top hierarchy is 1. And then the next folder is 2. And then 3. So 0, 1, 2, 3, depending upon where you are in the hierarchy. Again, this is a 1 for the customer. If I expand it, then these are all level 2. Go into that. These are all level 3. So it says the level that it is dynamically in this expression. And so now what we're going to say is get the level. So it could be 1, 2, 3, or 0. And then this is some key stuff here. We're going to concatenate, which means essentially concatenate X. It's going to iterate through the entire table. And I'm going to want just the top item, and I'll type each of these in as we're going through it, from the dictionary table we just created, utilizing a sort key, which is not going to show up, so we'll create it. And then return whatever column we want, in this case, expression. And this will be the repeatable pattern you can use. And then it's going to say if the depth is 0, put a blank so it doesn't show up there, and then return the result. But we'll go through this more. But right now, if I hit enter, this will not work. It will break. And that makes sense because this sort key doesn't exist. Okay, so let's see what's up with the sort key. How does that work? That will be the next key important thing for you. I'm going to take this out just so we can have things return. I'll take this out as well. So we have our depth. Okay, now let's look at the sort key. This again is very important. So you'll need to add this one item to your table after you create it with the DAX code, the sort key. So what we'll see here in the dictionary table is a calculated column called the sort key. Let's copy this, and I will put it into this table as well, and also talk you through what it's doing. So if we go back to our new dictionary table, this time we're going to go to the table view, and here's our table. We're going to go to new column, or actually if I click up to this, we'll go new column, and let's paste it. This will generate through a rank function the order that things need to traverse. Like this is going down the list of everything in your semantic model. It's going to mirror the way it's doing in Power BI. And what it's going to do, so I'm going to say, okay, 07, I'll populate these first, and I'll go through and talk through what each of them are. It's pretty straightforward, but if we hit enter, straightforward in the sense of it's easy to talk through, but once you get it, if we sort this key firstly like this, say sort ascending, well, it's going to now work the same way this model works, where you expand calculations, then it's going to have this order where it's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and kind of keep going through all these items. And the way the sort key is doing this is we're creating a ranking function that says order by the table name, and then order by the info group. And that's where, if you remember earlier, we spoke about 0, 1, and 2, where the columns and the measures were 1 in the data itself, in the dictionary logic that we created. And then the table attributes are 0, that pulls the table attributes up to the top, which is important. And then put the display folder. So if there's a folder, then we're going to order by that. And then finally the name. And that will mirror the way that this is working over here. So after we create that sort key, I'll hit enter. And now if we go back to our expression that we're working on creating, well, we can start to bring these things in now. So now I'm going to say the value, concatenate the top item. So this means for the concatenate X function, we want to get the dictionary table, the first item sorted by the sort key ascending. So as it's 1, 2, 3, it's always going to pull that first row and then get whatever field we want expression. And if I return this, you'll see very awesomely, now we have the expression coming in, and it's going to be the right expression for the right group. So we can see that, the calculations table, there's calculations, customer label, here's what this is, and it will keep going. But you'll notice two things. The first thing you'll notice is that the folders, well, these folders they're not actually calculations. So we want to prevent that second level 2 from populating, where if we go to calculations, it's actually saying the first value that's applicable under it. So what that means is that customers is saying format customer, but if we look up here, customers is hidden. So I'll pick regional calcs Atlantic, middle, or, Atlantic's hidden too. It's just all in there, Atlantic, and then it brings this value, but it's putting it at the folder level. So ultimately what you need to do is evolve this, which is what the whole logic will do. If we come back to here to say the result. So what this result's going to do is check two things. It's going to say first, if the depth is 0, which is all the way down here at the bottom, then return a blank. And if the depth is 2, which is the folder level, return a blank, because everything's in a folder, and folders don't have descriptions or definitions or those values. So I'll hit enter here, and now you have your pattern cleaned up. Calculations, you can see that it's not showing an expression, but then if I expand it, it will show it. And that's what you do. So that's how you do the expression. And what we'll do is we'll create a couple of these just for the idea of a repeating pattern. But first, let's create a little bit of the most complicated one, which just has a little bit of additional logic, and that's going to be the description column. So then measures, description matrix. I'm going to copy this. And I call these matrix because they're intended to work with a matrix. That's the purpose of them. So now let's come into this dictionary table and create a new measure. I'm going to return the description, which is that field that we populate. So we're going to do the is in scope, the same thing to get the hierarchy. Let's update each of these steps along the way. 07, 07, 07. And now the value, we're going to get the top value we just discussed, the dictionary table. We're going to use the sort key ascending. We're going to get the description value. But now there's a couple of extra steps we're adding. If we return this, we're going to want to say if the depth is 0, like we already discussed, put a blank. We don't need the description at the bottom. Also, what's in here now is just some additional logic. But we previously talked about if the depth is 2, we said put a blank, but in this time we're going to say put folder in dictionary table name. So you'll see what this does. It's going to say this is a folder in that table. And then there's two categories with model relationships and table attributes that actually fall under semantic model attributes. So we'll create that. Maybe you want to name things differently. This is where you can change that. So if I come up into here, call this description matrix 2, just like that. We've created it, description matrix 2. So now we can see, again, if we stick with our calculation level, in this case, I'll take off the expression. So we can see fields, whatever one we want to look, testing for views, the number of hidden fields, and then we can look at, if I expand it, it will say, okay, folder in the table. If we expand this, folder in Z sales table. So it's expanding that as we'd expect. But I missed this one. We want to change this to 7 as well to keep going. Update everything that's applicable, because now what you'll see is when we come back into here, it will say accordingly, which is accurate, this table stores primary calculations utilized in this model, table attributes, semantic model attributes. Okay, that's in there. So what are some different things you want to see now? Well, this is where if we come back to the dictionary itself, you can start to build something that looks really clean and fresh. You know, we can build a baked out table and we can repeat this process. What I did, we did the description and expression matrix now. We can also do the data type matrix and the format matrix. So let's build both of those real quick. We'll wrap this up for the idea of the calculations. So we're going to go back to the measures. We're going to take the format matrix. I'm going to copy this. And now in our dictionary, I'm going to do a new measure. Format matrix 2. This will be 07. 07. We're going to change all these guys. And again, in yours, you could have different naming, but this logic is what we already talked about. So it's just repeating the process. You can do it for anything you want to bring in. Again, you can see the format strings there. I'll hit return, this one. And finally, I'll do the data type matrix as well. But again, maybe you want other columns you care about. You can add them, no problem. New measure. Data type matrix 2. I'm going to change all these as well. 7, 7, 7, 7. This is the process you can do. You can be following along. Hit enter here. And now we've added the data type matrix 2, where it's going to show the data type regular. Here's the sales trending date. It's a timetable. And as well as the format, import for tables, but maybe if you expand something, it's going to actually show you, you know, the relationships, many to one, regular text. If you look at the attributes, if there are things that have formats, we can expand all these real quick just to kind of look. You'll see that it will show you the coding of it. Again, you can pick different things that you care about for your data governance kind of world. In this case, we'll collapse all of these. And you've built it. So then what we can do just to clean some things up is in our new table, if I come back here, we'll put all these new fields into a measures folder to keep things organized. And we'll put this into a calculated column folder, keeping it organized as well. And you've built your dictionary. So now, again, there's a lot of videos that I've created around table formatting, but you can make something that looks clean and sexy like this. You can copy this, you can paste it. We can go through the process here to kind of build this out as well. If you're interested for how to do that, we'll do that. But first we'll set up this kind of interactiveness of it so you can understand how to do that. There's a lab tab where, there's another video that you can call that shows you how to use field parameters. I'll put the link of it right there. That's more of a detailed version of it. But really, you've built it. So say you wanted to create this table now. Let's kind of go through the process here together. So actually, I'll make this a little bit just for reference here. Well, there's other videos and tables. That will take like 20 minutes to kind of talk through. I don't think you need that level. If you do want to see table definition, just look at another video here. But again, it's a principle of adding a matrix, creating the tables, and you're all set up. But overall, I think it will be important just to give you the gist for how to do the dictionary fields too. So I won't go through the formatting, but I'll just build it out. What I mean by that is this. So what you're going to want to do is we'll create an unformatted version of this table. But what that will look like is you're going to insert a matrix. And for this, I'm going to go to my 07 table. I want the dictionary hierarchy first. And then we're going to go measures. We want number of fields right here. I'm going to go number of fields hidden. And then the format matrix, data type matrix, expression, description. And you can see this kind of moves around. Well, we don't necessarily want that. So what I'm going to do is change this up, come over here, and we will column headers, options, auto size width off. So this is here, and now you've already created it. Again, you can format and go to the table formatting to pick the color schemes that you want for your own kind of reporting. This is what I chose. Again, if you have any questions about it, just hit me up in the comments. I'll talk to you about it. But now you have this. But let's talk about the parameters. So I think that's important to make sure you get the gist of how to build that. So now you have our table. It has all the information, the exact same thing here, just formatted a little differently. But now we want to have the ability to like remove things. Maybe we don't want to see the expression matrix. So here's how you do that. We're going to go to modeling. We're going to make a new parameter. It's going to be fields. And for this, we're going to go to 07, our measures, and we're going to say fields, hidden, data type, description, expression, formats. Pick all of these. We're going to call it dictionary param2 and add the slicer to this page. Very straightforward. Okay, this is in the video, the YouTube video I've created, Level Up with Field Parameters. Check it out. It will talk more about this, but essentially you can order the values of the field parameter. You can change the description to remove the to and tell it what it's looking at. So in this case, I'll leave it. Again, there's also a video I have on slicer filtering. So check out, search slicer filtering, and we'll show you how to take something like this and format it into something that looks way cooler like this. But from the functionality perspective, let's talk about what this is doing. So now what I'm going to do is come back to this table, and the work that we just did, I'm actually going to remove it. I'm going to delete all of these out of it, all of these values. Because instead, I'm going to say, I don't want to use that. I want to use our new item dictionary2 parameter. I'm going to add this to the values. And now look what's happening. Now we're really cooking with some things here. And what this is going to do is allow you to pick. So if say I'm going to pick some of these things, well, let's just do a quick slicer settings and say slicer settings selection, right like this, do even a select all. If I pick everything, there you go. And maybe I don't want to see the expression. So I'm just going to unselect expression. It's going to go away. Maybe I want to see description. And now you can control through the field parameters how you want this to look. But again, you have full access now to create a data dictionary. Copy and paste that DAX code in there. After that, you can create a nice looking table like this with icons. Check out my video on table design. It will give a 40-minute tutorial on how to format tables to look better, including a matrix video I have too, so check that out. Then you can add the level up parameters to show what do I want to have in this, what don't I want to have. I remove it, add it, everything you want to have. Ultimately, it will change and evolve over time, and you'll have a full equipped data dictionary that's fully automatic to support all of your data governance needs. So I hope you enjoy this. I hope you get a lot out of it. Leave a question, a comment. I always read them. I'll always respond. Thank you for your support. Subscribe. You'll keep getting notified of new stuff that comes out. Hopefully you find value in this data dictionary, fully automatic style. If you have any other thoughts or needs, let me know. Until then, take care. Bye.